In studio now to discuss with me the emerging campaign agenda is Susan Mang'eni, who is the Busia Women candidate on an ANC ticket. We're also joined by political risk analyst Dismas Mokua. Very good morning to you.
Good morning.
Thank you very much for coming in. Let's start off with Jubilee. This week they're going back to central Kenya, and it's not the first time we've seen them go back to their people. Why this insistence on going back to a turf where that is perceived to largely be on your side? I'll start with you, Susan.
I wish you started with NASA because I'm a NASA candidate. But anyway, I would say I think very few days are remaining to the election date. And so everybody is trying to consolidate their support, especially in regions where they consider as being strongholds. And we all know that Jubilee's stronghold is in Central Province. And so everybody wants to ensure that there will be maximum high turnout. And so it's expected that they will keep on going there, and we are likely to keep on seeing more frequent visits there. Of course, there are a lot of internal issues, just like you put it in the bulletin. I mean, the nomination exercise for the first time in this country brings so many people. We've seen so many people coming up as independent candidates. And again, we've seen a lot of opposition, resistance from now parties, especially in Central Province, from Jubilee Party saying, why do we need to work with independents? So, I mean, the president has a lot of work to go and do in his own backyard to ensure that despite all these challenges, despite all this resistance, that he will still garner the highest number of voter turnout. Yeah.
Dismas, as she says, the internal wars between the candidates as well as the independent candidates seem to be taking Jubilee back to their turf to definitely consolidate all these votes they can get. But in the event that they still have these displeased voices, so to speak, would it in any way harm voter turnout for them?
Yeah, absolutely. And there are three reasons as to why President Kenyatta is worried about the Central Kenya vote. Number one is the role of his deputy president, Mr. William Samoei Ruto, who's been accused of antagonizing so many candidates. Actually, Mr. Ruto is the reason as to why you have the so-called Jubilee independents. When you look at Peter Kenneth, you look at William Kavogo, when you look at Kembi Gitura, all of them say that the deputy president is playing 2022 politics now, trying to ensure that he gets people who support his agenda in strong positions, so that as soon as President Kenyatta gets sworn into a second term, he starts campaigning for 2022. And all these independents have got that common denominator, that they have no time for the deputy president. And most of them are very disappointed. And especially for the ones who were beaten during the primaries, which they consider are not free and fair, and now have decided they're not going to take part in elective politics anymore, they may decide to stay at home and frustrate the voter turnout. When you look at those independents right now, all of them are saying we're supporting President Kenyatta, but we don't have time for the deputy president. That's number one. When you go to a place like Meru, you have Mr. Kiraitu Murungi, who actually admits late in the day that the idea of having one political party by the name Jubilee was a big mistake, was a blunder. And Governor Munya has been raising a lot of political capital. Actually, I understand from the ground that Governor Munya now is very, very strong, is very solid. And you recall a few days ago, Governor Munya saying to President Kenyatta that please tell me your dogs. There are some people who've been sent here by the deputy president to come and antagonize us. And when you look at the deputy president, that seems to cut across all the nation. For instance, when the president was in Kisii a few days ago, the deputy president did not accompany him. So there are some structural issues that probably the president needs to look at.
But Ruto, just to cut you short, Ruto sought to address that, and he said, I've had so many people say, we don't have a problem with the president. Our problem is Ruto. So he said, vote for the president, then you can deal with me come 2022.
Akisa, that was very good propaganda, very solid propaganda. But you see, with our new constitution, when you go to the ballot, you have two names. You have the president and his picture, and then the deputy president without a photo. So we are not going to say that I'm going to vote for the president and not for the deputy. It's not as if President Kenyatta has got an option. It's a joint ticket. And you know, that was also very good propaganda from NASA. When Kalonzo Musyoka said that the biggest challenge Central Kenya is going to have going to the future is going to be the deputy president, Ruto. So for you to run away from that situation, you better ensure that you don't vote for him now. And of course, you know the ICC issue. During the last election, there were so many rallies, prayer rallies done across the nation, which ensured that the people from central Kenya they felt like they were under hostage, and they needed to come out to vote in truckloads. But this time round, we don't have the ICC issue. But more important...
But it's being brought in.
It's being brought out.
Snuck in into...
But you know, it's not been able to gain traction. Because the same President Kenyatta says, our campaign now needs to be anchored on issue. Let's discuss whether or not having free secondary education is viable. So the moment you introduce ICC, then it becomes emotional and it's not going to
Susan,
fly.
what do you think about the introduction of the ICC question in this campaign?
But just even before that, we all know that in 2013 election, what really helped rally people around, you know, to us to believe was the ICC issue. That's what was used to say, look, all of us, we are going to The Hague. We need to come out and vote for us and see. It was the ICC. That's what appealed to the emotions. But right now, Kenyans know that is no longer an issue. It's already been dealt with. So any attempt to try and revive it, I don't know if this time round is going to sell. But I just wanted to correct Dismas. When NASA say that, and even when central people, I don't want to say the tribal word, feel that actually a vote for Kenyatta is also a vote for Ruto. That's the truth. It's the truth because if anything was to happen today to the president, who assumes the presidency is Ruto. So it's not a propaganda when Kalonzo says that we know if you're voting for Uhuru, you're voting also for Ruto in 2022 because his foot is already in State House. One foot is already in State House, actually, because constitutionally, Kenyatta is just doing his last term. If he will be given mandate, he'll be doing his last term. So the sentiments which are being shared across, especially in Central Province, and any smart politicians like Ruto, will want to ensure that going forward, in the next 5 years, you have people who can listen to you. You have people who can make things work for you. If you go back to the history, look at Jomo Kenyatta, Mzee Jomo Kenyatta, the succession that played around there, even how President Moi came into being. You will see that you need all the time to be surrounded with the people who are like-minded. So I think Ruto is just playing safe, and Ruto's agenda is purely a 2022 agenda. So when Inasa says it's not just a propaganda, that's the reality, that Ruto has one foot in State House. So central people got to be worried, you know.
The fact that Ruto is largely seen to be playing 2022 politics, will this in any way hurt this particular campaign period that
it's already, but it's already hurting.
Yeah. It's already doing that. Like, for instance, when you look at Governor Munya, who's now becoming very strong, and Kireitu Murungi working with the deputy president, if the deputy president was not active in saying that I want Kireitu Murungi, not Governor Munya, then there would be a bit of peace. I mean, the same situation is obtaining in Kiambu today. The people in the north say that the deputy president is the one who is supporting Waititu, and he has no time for Governor Kavogo. And you know Governor Kavogo has been around the block for a long time. He's a politician with a lot of experience and with a lot of resources. It would have actually been nice for the deputy president to scheme his 2022 succession game without antagonizing anybody.
Exactly.
But now with little effort, he's managed to create political enemies across the nation. Whichever county you go, there are people who don't have time for the deputy president. But again, you know, you may not blame him because all politicians are supposed to be very ambitious, but you're supposed to do it with moderation without having created so many enemies. That's one issue. Then the next issue, which is the elephant in the room, and nobody in Jubilee wants to admit, is the issue of the development agenda. Because people in Central Kenya think they've gotten a road deal this time round. That the President of the Republic of Kenya comes from a ridge away, but they claim they're not beneficiaries of this national cake. So they're beginning to say, we sent you, you became the president, and we expected you to tilt development agendas in our favor. So a number of them are beginning to ask, Mr. President, what have you done for us lately so that we are able to convince us?
Okay, there's another issue that comes out during this particular campaign trail, and that is the six-piece vote. Jubilee is rallying for it. We are seeing ODM doing the same. But for those in NASA, we know, like, for instance, the race you're in, we have a candidate, the incumbent Florence Mutua in ODM, and we have yourself an ANC. How are we going to run these campaigns? And do you think a six-piece vote would work? A campaign for a six-piece vote would work on NASA?
You see, the best thing, the best outcome that is likely to come as a result of this election is that Kenyans, the citizens, the electorates are a little bit enlightened, and the electorates now want to go for an individual. It's not even a political party. And six-piece is not working anymore. For us in NASA, we are telling Honorable Raila Odinga, you want to go to State House, or you want to have all the governors and everybody and still become opposition chief. So for us, we've had that before, we've had that experience before. But for me, the most important thing is to go there and head the government. So we are telling him, if you come to our regions, if you come to Western region, and you know Western region, ODM, it's not about party, it's about NASA, it's about the agenda of NASA. Look for your vote. All of us are going to be behind you. We're going to support you. Our major fixation is that you go to the State House. That's the number one thing we want to do. All these things, you've had majority in parliament, but Kenyans are still crying. You've had everything you wanted this time round. Forget about ODM. You are one of our own. We want to see you there at State House, and then everything else will follow.
But the argument has been he's in ODM, and you cannot be a general without foot soldiers
but you see,
in parliament.
And that has been the argument since 2007. In 2013, it was the same argument, but we are not there. So the question is, do you want to be also a general who doesn't lead? Do you want to be a head of state who does not have a state, or a ruler who does without a state? So what you're telling him, if he thought that ODM, he wanted food, so then he should have remained in ODM. And you see, because you cannot go to a coalition called NASA admitting that indeed, if I went alone as ODM, like we've been seeing them talking about, and it wasn't easy to come up with NASA. They've had numerous discussions, they've had numerous consultations, and the truth is, there is no any single party that can be able to take you to State House. So then why did we come up with the idea called NASA? Why did you reach out to Ford Kenya? Why did you reach out to ANC? What you're telling you is that you need the numbers. Focus on going to State House. The rest, all of us are foot soldiers. Doesn't he have confidence in us?
All right. Do you think this whole NASA coalition thing and the six-piece that ODM is fixated on is going to affect NASA's campaigns?
Now, when you talk about the six-piece, I think there was a lapse in serious judgment on the part of NASA. They should have agreed on having joint nomination, that whoever wins from the NASA family becomes the sole flag bearer. So there's a very high probability in the event that Raila Odinga becomes president, there's a very high probability that he'll have a minority both in the National Assembly and also at the Senate. Because, like, for instance, here in Nairobi, in most constituencies, you have one Jubilee candidate, and then you have NASA spread all over. Like, for instance, when you look at the women rep position, you have Esther Passaris, you have another candidate from Wiper, they're spread all over, all of them going against Shebesh. And, you know, NASA were in a hurry to cover up a structure, and their interest was just the presidential level. But, you know, the independent candidates and having many parties, they serve the interest of Raila Odinga. That when she's doing her campaigns in Busia and when Mutua is doing her campaigns in Busia, all of them are saying, vote for Baba. So at the end of the day, he becomes a beneficiary. And I think Raila will be well advised to stick with the presidential vote. If he becomes a president, then he can sort out the National Assembly and the Senate.
But also, just on that, is to say that this will not be the first time to have a president who has minority in parliament. I mean, Moi ruled this country for so many years, most of the time, especially from 1992.
So we don't really mind if
so
he has
it doesn't
minority.
mind. And also, experience also has shown us, and even history, that once you are the head of state, wooing people to support you is very easy. We've seen it happen. We've seen
I would want us to end.
I know
I
you
would
want to jump.
us to end, yes.
But this is from a governance perspective. The best situation for Kenya would be having a president from a different party from the two houses. Because, for instance, if you've got a NASA president and NASA controls the National Assembly and the Senate, that will be a dictatorship.
All right. Unfortunately, we have to end it here. I understand we don't have too much time, but Susan, should have you here once again. Thank you so much. Susan Mang'eni, candidate